What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 209 of the Creative Rise podcast. If you're new to the show, this podcast solely exists to help you learn business strategies so you can actually run one. We say here at Creative Rise that we are on a mission to help turn creatives into six-figure business owners, and this podcast is our weekly stab at trying to do that. So, solo episode today with just me here, Joey. My background, a photographer, filmmaker, and now a brand strategist for about just over a decade now, and started Creative Rise with my wife, Christy, who came from the wedding world and is now in the brand photography world as well. Started Creative Rise in 2019. So this has been a really, really fun resource over the last 5 years, getting a podcast almost every single week. It's a weekly show now. And this week's episode is just that. It is a super fun episode where we give an inside look into what a brand actually thinks about content. So Jordy Merry, the head of content, the narrative architect, this is such a brilliant name, for Zorali, comes on to today talk about everything a brand thinks about when producing good content, everything a brand thinks about when it comes to what content is working right now, what content's not. So if you're in the brand space, this is like the episode you're going to want to listen to kick off 2025, to make sure you're dialed in on what it looks like to work with brands. And if you're in the wedding space, what a cool opportunity to listen in if you ever want to shift into the brand space completely or just start adding brand offers to your current existing business. This is going to be a phenomenal episode for you to listen to so you can really start to understand how these brands think about content, how important creatives like us are in order to making a business go and actually sell things. And last but not least, how you can do it in a way that is going to be successful for you and successful for the brand. So big shout out to Jordy Merry. Dude's a legend. He had a lot of really, really great stuff to say in today's episode. So if you want to find Jordy, check out his body work. I'm also going to attach a couple of the really cool films that I personally have loved watching that Jordy has made. And then, of course, anything about Zorali, which is his current body work, what he's working on to build daily. That's all going to be in the links in the description. But guys, hope you guys are having a great day, getting up to Christmas season here, which is so exciting. So if you're listening to this episode after Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. But Merry almost Christmas to everybody who's listening to this when this dropped. And yeah, this is a great conversation. So shout out to Jordy. Dude, thanks for being on the pod. And check out my episode with Jordy Merry, talking all about how brands think about content and what you need to know. Jordy Merry, welcome to the show, bro. Thanks for spending some time this morning. You're down in Australia, so appreciate you sitting there with your cup of coffee. How you doing?
Good, mate. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm not caffeinated. I'm not a coffee guy anymore. Unfortunately, I
No.
used to be a big coffee guy, and then I went cold turkey one day and I never looked back. So
Wow.
it's
What
been
brought that on?
yeah, I've got ADHD and some other
Yep.
stuff, and I just felt like
Yep.
it was making me not able to focus. You know, coffee
Okay.
like dials a lot of people, and it was making me a little bit
Yep.
like scatterbrained.
Yep.
So I just cut it out one day because I felt like my mind was really like brain foggy, and I
Yep.
felt like I was able to work better, and I never went back. But I really, really miss, I've gotten into tea a little bit, but I really
Okay.
miss that like warm
Yeah.
morning
The
routine.
comforting.
Oh,
Yep.
so comforting, bro. It's so
Yeah.
comforting. I had the whole deal too. I had like a really nice espresso machine at my house,
Mm.
and I was like doing the whole thing, and I
Yep.
gave it all to my brother-in-law because I was like, someone's got to make use of this. So
Yeah.
anyways, bro, welcome to
Good
the
on
show.
ya.
I'm glad you got your
Thank you.
coffee. Rapid fire questions real quick. Where are
Yep.
you from?
I am from the Sunshine Coast, Queensland, in Australia. So yeah, it's just a little town called Pacific Paradise, which is maybe 2 minutes drive from the beach, which is amazing. I love it.
Unreal. And have you always been like right on the beach? Growing up on the beach, always lived by the
Yeah.
beach.
Yep, pretty much. I'm a surfer kid. I grew up in Ocean Grove, Victoria, which is down on the coast, down the bottom of Australia. And I was
Yeah.
probably 2 minutes from the beach as well, from where I lived, and always surfed, always gone to the beach, always just being able to just dive into the ocean whenever I wanted. So pretty lucky in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, sick. And what do you do when you meet somebody like in an elevator and someone says, "What do you do?" What do you tell
I don't think I've ever met anyone in an elevator and they've asked me that, but if I did, I'd probably say I'm the video guy at Zorali. Because if I say my actual role title, they'd probably be like, "What the heck?" I basically made it up. With Cam, he's just like, "You need to make yourself a role title," and I was like, "All right." I put it in ChatGPT. Better term for content creator. and it just came up with all these different options. And then I was like, oh, that one looks cool. And it's narrative architect. So that's my, like, on my email sub thing, it's like narrative
Yeah.
architect. So I probably wouldn't tell anyone in an elevator though, because I'd feel a bit like weird about it.
I love it. So you're
Yeah.
the narrative architect at Zorali.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And how long have you been, kind of around creative filmmaking, creative business for? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've kind of been in the creative world since I was about 18 years old. I'm 34 now. So yeah, you do the math. I'm not very good at that part of things, but yeah, in the business side of things, I've been freelancing with Zorali since they started, since conception 5 years ago. But in the full-time role for now for just over a year. So
Mm,
um, it's been a big learning curve for me, like being like full time in it, because obviously you're working freelance, you're working for plenty of other different people,
yeah.
different clients, different businesses, and everyone does things so differently. But being in like one brand and being kind of the main media person, it's taught me so much. So
Mm,
yeah, it's
super
awesome.
cool. And real quick, for people that don't know what Zorali is,
Yep.
describe Zorali.
Zorali is an outdoor brand that their whole mission is basically to renew people's spirit, to go outside, to breathe in the fresh air, to experience nature and the wholeness and all the benefits that nature gives you. So you don't have to be a crazy mountain climber to climb the tallest peaks, or you can literally just go back in your backyard and just experience the birds singing. So it's an outdoor brand that really wants people to just love nature and use it and experience it. So
Yeah, I love that.
yeah,
So, a little bit of backstory for everybody listening. I had asked you to jump on the pod because I've been scrolling on Instagram over the last, months, but specifically the last couple of weeks coming up to Black Friday. And
yeah,
every time I open my Instagram, you're dancing, singing a song, doing something with Zorali on
yeah,
my feed. And I'm like, dude, Jordy is so good. He's killing it at all of this brand content. So we're gonna get into that. I want to
yeah,
talk about like your whole philosophy on what what creative does for a brand, why it's important, how we should think about it, what's working, what's not, and that's
yeah,
going to be really beneficial not only for people who own their own brands that are listening to this.
mm,
Obviously, they implement that stuff, but most importantly, for all the creatives that listen to the show, which is pretty much everyone that listens, that are
yeah,
wanting to get better at working with brands. So before we get there, though, backstory on you and I. So we got mutual friends who are the
mm-hmm,
founders of Zorali. You've known them way longer than I have.
yeah,
You guys go back a long time. I've only known them for a couple years now, but we were down in Australia at the beginning of 2024,
mm-hmm,
hanging out with Cam and Elise, and we dropped by the warehouse because they
yeah,
own Zorali, and you were there hanging out. We met,
yeah.
and dude, I've just been super impressed with everything you've been doing.
Thanks, man.
Before Zorali, because I've gotten to see a lot of that, the films you've created, all that stuff,
Yeah,
and all the stuff you've obviously done for Zorali. So why don't you give a little bit of backstory on
mm,
what is your journey to finding really filmmaking, photo, helping
yeah,
brands with stuff, freelancing. What's your journey of getting there and then eventually landing at Zorali? Give us like the 2 minute story of
yeah,
Jordy getting to where you're at.
yeah, totally. So basically, I picked up a camera when I was 18 to just film my friends surfing. They all needed clips for their sponsors, so I just grabbed my dad's handycam and started going on the beach and just filming them. So, uh, cut some little edits together for them so they could send to their sponsors. And I was kind of like, man, I really enjoy this. This is kind of fun. I'm very musical. I love music, and so putting music with film, it just like I don't know, it just like got to me, and I was like, I wonder if actually, you know what? It was never like I wonder if this could be a career. It was just like a passion. It just became a passion, and so I just like kept doing it. And a thing that I kind of really love, I just like go for 100%.
Mm.
At the time, I was studying primary school teaching, and I ended up getting to a point where I deferred for a year and was just I met this guy who was a full-time filmmaker. He'd make music videos for bands across the country, and he asked me to come on the road with him and just yeah, learn from him and make music videos with him. And so yeah, I went for 6 months to a year just like traveling around with him and learning the ropes, filming on bigger cameras, Reds and Aries and stuff like that, which are crazy expensive cameras that I'd never
Mm-hmm.
even seen before. So it was really cool. And then after that, went back to uni, finished my degree, which my parents were very happy about. And and then I bought my own cameras. I was working at a film studio. It was actually it was a TV broadcasting studio called the
Okay, cool.
Australian Christian Channel, and so they
Cool.
mainly do like broadcasting other people's shows. So we weren't making
Yeah.
much content, but I was editing a fair bit, doing compliance editing, and we did a little bit of production with them as well, which is cool. But yeah, through that I bought my own cameras, and then I basically just started freelancing for myself and working for other brands, and getting little gigs here and there, and just growing and getting more confident in it. And and then I think I met Cam maybe, I think it was 2020. Oh, here he is.
There he is.
Hi,
That's the
dude.
exact man you're talking about right there. There he is.
Two of my favorites in one podcast. I can't wait to listen to this. Back to
Dude,
the
what a
podcast.
hijack.
Mate,
Good to see you,
That's the
bro.
biggest. That's not very professional, bro.
And that's how Zorali rolls right there.
That's
there you
how
go.
Zorali rolls. That's form. I met that guy. I think it was 2016 or something. He had a brand called Monster Surf, and I didn't meet him being a media guy or that he knew about. I met him being a surfer.
Yeah.
And I was a brand ambassador for Monster Surf. And so I was one of their
Okay.
surfers, and I wore their clothes, and people took photos of me and video of me. And
Yeah.
so it was like, once I started going on trips with him and started showing him some of the stuff that I was doing, he was like, oh, bro, like we should totally tee up some shoots together and get you to do more things for Monster. And then next minute, I'm over in the Philippines shooting a 50-minute documentary with Cam and all these other ambassadors. And I don't know, I feel like Cam's just one of those guys that you pitch an idea to, and he's just a yes man. He's like, yeah, we can make that happen. So I just like our like relationship really grew, and we just became real good mates, and started just making heaps of really cool creative things together, and did like a big movie premiere of that the movie we did with Monster called Live Passionately,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And then
Awesome. I love that film. It's great.
yeah, thank you. And then, sorry, this is a long 2-minute version
That's
of
great.
the story.
Keep going.
But then he basically fell in love with Elise, and then transitioned out of Monster into Zorali. And I started doing a bit of freelance stuff for them. And a few campaigns we did in Tasmania. We did an Earth Office campaign that was super fun. We were trying to like, basically, the whole 2020 thing happened with lockdown and stuff, and we're trying to make working from home. Instead of working from home, we had this whole campaign of working from Rome, and so it was ROAM, and it was like working from your van and going exploring while you're working, kind of thing. And so this Earth Office was this whole campaign was just about getting people outside, because everyone had been locked in their
Of course.
confined spaces for so long. And so we were like, this is the perfect time to launch this campaign and get people out there, explore, and try and make work and exploration coincide. And we did this whole campaign in Tassie where they were just like working from their caravan and stuff, and we shot this campaign video. And that was really fun. And since then, but about 2 or 3 years of just I guess like little campaigns here and there, videos here and there. But then in January 2023, they said, Jordy, we want you full time. They had moved their warehouse from Melbourne up to Sunshine Coast where I live.
Yeah.
And then it kind of made sense for me to work for them full time. I just had my second little child. And so I was like, I need a bit more of a secure income. This the whole freelance world is, you never know when a check's gonna come in, so my wife was like, take the job. That's probably a good thing for our family. So no, it's been a blessing, man. I'm still learning so much in the media world. Like I definitely don't have it together, but
Yeah, all of
the
us.
big
Yeah.
yeah, the biggest things that I've learned is just to like, if you have an idea, go for it and just like run with it and get people around you that are gonna support it and
Mm.
yeah, just give it a shot really.
I love it. Okay, a
Yeah.
couple things I hear in that story. First one, speaking of Tazzy, the people that were on the podcast, as the time this airs,
Mm.
so last week's podcast, at the time of this podcast airing, there's a couple from Tazzy actually. They're
Oh, no
great.
way.
Kai and
That's
Sean.
awesome.
Yeah, we just had them on the podcast. Yeah, they're killing it. They're awesome. So
That's
if you haven't
cool.
listened to that, quick pitch for last week's podcast, everybody go back and listen to that one after this one. But second thing I heard is, sounds like Zorali moved their entire business and warehouse just because they wanted to be around you.
That's exactly right. I'd been prepping them, so I've been like, when are you guys gonna move? Like since they started.
Yeah.
And they were like, nah, people from the Sunshine Coast are weird, blah blah blah. But yeah, it got to them. If you feed them enough, it's like Inception. It just like it builds
It'll
something
get ya.
deep inside their brain, and it'll get you.
Yeah, it'll get you. I love that,
Yeah.
bro. Well, you and
Yeah.
I have very similar origin stories to getting into the art of filmmaking. My story was very similar to yours, but it was in the ski and snowboard industry. So
Yeah, wow.
I grew up as the guy. I was the snowboarder. I was the skier who was like, oh, I might like be really good at this. I might
Yeah.
go pro. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, all my boys go pro, and I'm not. And I'm like, oh, I should probably get up behind a camera now, So I was the same thing as you in the surf
That's
world. I was like,
awesome.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I started. That's actually how I got my start. Was my first camera that I got was entirely solely so that I could start filming, following dudes off jumps and rail. It was just all my buddies are in the X Games, Olympics, and I shot a lot of
Wow. That's
the
cool.
early films and the content. So yeah, you and I come from a very similar world. You were just in the ocean. I was in the snow. But
I love
okay,
that.
cool. Let's talk about Zorali and your role there, because you are the narrative architect, which is such a fun way of giving you a cool job title. Basically, you're the main content dude. And if there's a business that I think really encompasses how important content is to a product-based business, Zorali is a really, really good example of that. You guys are, I would assume, probably one of the fastest growing brands in Australia. I would for sure assume that. I would assume probably the South Pacific. And I think one of the reasons for that, and you'd probably agree with me, is the brand. The brand is a really alive brand. It feels really alive.
Yeah.
I think you guys, what you stand for is very clear. And I know that your role in helping curate that content has been a big piece of that. So my first question is, how important from the inside, because I'm asking you all these questions, someone from the outside, I work with brands. You are the brand, right? You work inside the brand. So the question is coming from the outside in, from people outside who want to work for brands like yourself. How important is content to the brand you work for? And then if you can give kind of a generalization answer as well, like how important do you think content is to brands that are either service-based or product-based, like the one that you're working in?
Yeah. Oh, like exponentially important. Like just, it's one of the most important. Actually, Cam says that, like he jokes about this, but he says we're kind of a media company that sells outdoor product.
Wow.
Like that literally comes out of his mouth a lot of the time, because
Hmm.
a lot of what we actually want to do, it's not like the products allow people to get out there and enjoy the environment. But what we want to do is make people feel what we feel when we're out there experiencing nature. And
Wow.
so when we're making content, we want to like infuse our content with the same feeling that we get when we're, I don't know, snowboarding down a mountain, or when we're
Yeah.
at the top of a beautiful hill with a sunrise, or like just laying in the grass and the birds chirping. We want to like use our creative talents and just everything that we've been given to be able to put the audience in that space with us, so that like, yeah, it's like the product helps you, get there and makes you feel comfortable in those environments. But it's more about like making the hero the environment and the nature, So I
I
think
love that.
yeah, I think it's so important. Like, and I probably didn't have an appreciation of how important content actually is when I was outside of a brand and just doing freelance stuff. I thought, it's like, it's obviously we're moving in that direction, and people need good content creators and whatnot, and we're becoming a lot more valuable in society. But then coming into a brand and like seeing like how many ads get churned out and how much that like actually directly like reflects the revenue that we're getting, it's just like
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Crazy.
It's like, whoa, if you didn't have us, like probably wouldn't sell much. And and not only that, you wouldn't be able to be like the solid brand and have the solid brand identity that you have, because everything's
Yes.
just wrapped up in like what you tell the audience. And how do you tell the audience? Through content. So it's massive,
Yeah.
man. It's huge. And before me, they're killing it. Like I'm just like learning so much from Elise and Cam, because they started just doing it themselves, right? And they get it. Like that's why it's 5 years in, they're killing it in the industry.
Yeah,
and like,
killing it.
And there's people like learn from them and want to learn from them of how like rapid they grew straight away. And we actually just made a documentary that kind of shows people the kind of journey of how they got there. But they were doing all the videos and the photos by themselves, and like they were crushing it, like, you know what I mean? And they're not like trained photographers or videographers or whatever. But yeah, it's so important, eh?
Yeah, dude, I love that. I have Zorali's website pulled up right here. It says
Mm.
what I would classify as a why statement. It says, we believe that outside nurtures us inside. And I'm like, that, what a beautiful, I love, your answer couldn't have been better for me to ask, how important is content? And for you to say, Cam says all the time, we are actually a media company selling a vision of the world that we would like to see people experience. And we just so happen to sell products. You know, like, how incredible is that? Oh,
Yep.
wow, that's so good. Okay, so first takeaway from the pod for me already is that us creatives, and when I say us, I'm speaking to the people outside of the brands. We need to really consider how all brands should be media companies, because we're so quickly moving into that world. We talk about that a lot at Creative Rise, is that the role of a creative in 2000 versus 2024 is so drastically different, right?
Yeah.
Like you have so much earning potential, so much more importantly, impact potential. I love what you said there. I love seeing us turn over a bunch of ads and see how they actually directly affect revenue. Or
Yeah.
I'm sure you and Cam sit down all the time and look inside your ad library and go, man, this ad popped, and we scaled it. You scale the heck out of that. And that must be like a great feeling. I'm assuming that's a great feeling for you to be like, oh, that idea crushed, you know?
Oh, it's awesome. Like even the whole Black Friday sales, just like seeing the ads that we sat down, conceptualized, created, and then seeing them crush and like directly affect the revenue. It's just like, man, that's cool. Like, because I feel like every creative has like those like you're always doubting yourself whether you can do it, whether it's actually working. But like, yeah, with all like the amazing like graphs and tallies that just show you like live what's happening, it's just like, man, this content, without it, we would be doing hardly anything. But I don't know,
really makes a difference.
It makes such a difference, man. So
yeah, I love that. Okay, well, why don't you bring me into that room for a second, because I think that's what a lot of creatives are wondering, and this is what I think you do so well, you know. And if you want to throw the team name on this, sure, you guys all do so well at this. But I know you're the one clicking export and, you know, doing all the file stuff. You're the one actually making it all happen. So bring me into the room for a second. When Zorali's going, guys, we got Black Friday coming on up, which is the Super Bowl of a product-based brand, and you guys just had a killer Black Friday. I'm gonna assume biggest Black Friday yet. I'm assuming from the outside looking in.
Yeah,
Bring
for
me
sure.
into what that world looks like. How do you guys go from conception to looking at the data? So I guess my first question is, how much, this is actually I think this is a fun question to start with. In the world of creating content for a brand, how much content do you create, Jordy, as the actual content director, creator for this company? How much of it do you create that goes completely flat because for some reason the data showed you it wasn't popping off? How much content do you create that never gets used or never gets scaled, I should say?
Yeah. It'd be interesting to look at the percentages, but I reckon if I make 20 ads in a week or something, which is like, I obviously make iterations of every ad, so it ends up being
Yeah, of
like
course.
50 to 100 ads or whatever. But so I reckon maybe 3 will just crush, and then the other
Wow.
ones are pretty flat. Like,
Wow. Okay, so
yeah,
this is important. This is so important because we talk about this all the time, and I think this
yeah,
is one of the biggest things changing in the creative business landscape is that the old days of hey, you're hiring me, I'm the creative, I know best.
yeah,
Those days are kind of starting to fall away because
yeah,
we now live in a world where truly the data
mm,
is what's king, right? And I
yeah,
know this happens with us here all the time. This happens with Christy and I. This happens with us when we create content for brands. I'm sure this
yeah,
happens for you. You
yeah,
have this concept, you create the ad, you think it's going to crush,
mm,
you upload it and like the data's like, no, like this ad kind of sucks. And they pump
oh,
something you never thought would have actually gone off. You know, and you're
100%.
like, whoa, like data is truly king in the new
Yeah,
world of content we're living in, right? So talk to me a little bit about that from your
yeah,
experience doing you have a ton of quantity experience, right, with all the ads you're getting to push through. Talk to me
mm,
about your experience with using data to inform your creative decisions.
yeah, totally. I think it's one of the most like saying before, it was like awesome to conceptualize something, put it up there, and watch it crush. But then the
Yeah.
opposite is also true, like what you're saying. It's like you have this amazing idea, you spend like 2 days filming it, and like it's just going to be the best piece. Everyone's going to love it. It's going to blow up, and then it just literally does nothing, and you're like, what the heck? And then you push export on like something that took you like half an hour to make on an iPhone, and that thing just like crushes, and you're just like,
Yeah.
no, like that's not how it should work. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
true, bro. Like, we have to really, yeah, we have to just look at what's worked in the past, and a lot of it is just that first 3 seconds of like, why did people click on it? Is that first little hook? Is that what about it? Is it something that we've said, like with the voiceover and the titles popping up? Is it something about the visuals that it's just like bright and clear, obviously, or like the smiling faces is a big one. If we have product with
Mm.
big smiling faces,
Oh,
normally they go
wow.
pretty well. Um, and then I don't know, also just like bringing people into that environment again. If it's like beautiful, if it's kind of like inspirational. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so I think it's been a learning curve for me just to like figure out, because one week you'll learn something and then you'll do it for the next week, and it might work for a few consecutive weeks in a row, but then it just changes so quickly that you're
Mm.
like, it's not working anymore, and something else like is trending or whatever, and you have to kind of like
Mm.
always be pivoting.
Yeah.
Um, and always be kind of like looking at the data and looking at the ads that are working and not working. So it's yeah, it's forever learning, man. And I think I actually struggle a lot with, yeah, just like creating content that I really think is cringy, but it works. I
Yeah.
struggle big time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Elise can attest to this. Like, we just are constantly just like, she'll be like, just do it like this, and I'll be like, but it goes against everything I believe in, like, um, and
Can you
so
give me an
like,
example? Do you have an
oh, just
example?
well, just like any kind of iPhone talking head selfie, they always crush. But it's just
Hmm.
like there's zero creativity. It's literally just someone in a warehouse with boxes behind them, and like they're talking about like, I don't know, just the latest like updates to the product or whatever. And like
Yeah.
they just seem to like absolutely crush, because I think what it is, it's authenticity, and it's just reality
Mm.
of like every day, right? And people can just really relate to that. And then you do this big production for 2 days, and you make the lighting all perfect and whatnot. And it's almost like the overproduction of it doesn't quite like, it doesn't have that authenticity that just a selfie mode thing does. And so
Hmm.
I don't know, like I'm like, if you want someone to like do the selfie things or whatever, like just pay someone else to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
but it's just part of the role. It's like learning um and just like being willing to do whatever it takes, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I
It's amazing.
I would rather get out a red camera and shoot something super creative, but there's a lot of
It's not
humility.
always what pays the bills.
It's
Yeah.
not what pays the
Yeah.
bills. You have to be
Yeah.
humble and be able to do the other
Yeah.
things as well. So
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I love that. So you are getting a PhD, quite literally, in marketing from your experience at Zorali. Like, you're getting to see the ins and outs. You're getting to see how directly what you try yields results. Like, I mean, what an incredible experience. I wish every creative could have like that beta experience, even for just like a month, just to see how what they contribute can actually do to a brand. Because I meet a lot of creatives all the time who go, well, I'm just not actually convinced that what I do actually is really helpful to a brand. That's why when they pitch themselves, they'll pitch it, oh, yeah, I'll do it for like $200. We'll do this huge campaign, or $1,000 for this massive thing, you know? So I spent a lot of my days actually having conversations with creatives about like how to try and convince them of the value of this stuff. But it's always interesting to find out what actually is valuable and what's not, because what we think is value sometimes actually doesn't translate into dollars. So
that's so true. Yeah.
what would you say, Jordy, for someone who's wanting to work with brands, and for someone who's wanting to go, hey, I want to go find a brand who, you know, maybe doesn't have a Jordy, who's outsourcing a lot of that stuff or contracting people. And I know Zorali does a little bit of that still, but you would do the bulk. Like, what have you learned that you should tell creatives outside of what you just said, which is it's all about testing, quantity's king, and it's not always what you think is going to work. Outside of those things, like what else have you learned to be true about a good content strategy for a brand? And what can we, as people that want to work with brands, learn from you about that?
It's a good question. I think the biggest thing I've learned recently is just like leaning into what truly makes you you. So for me, I love singing, dancing, being funny, and like
Humor.
And so like if I try and be this serious like person that I'm not, like it might work, but chances are if I just like lean into exactly who I am and what I do best and just like roll with it and actually have fun with it, and that's where I come alive. And I feel like every time I've done that, it's crushed. Like whether it's just a reel for Instagram, it's just like what is it that makes you uniquely you, and what do you bring to the table that no one else can? Lean into that and just go for it, you know? So yeah, a lot of the stuff that you've been seeing recently on our Instagram is me literally creating a song from scratch and making a funny dancing reel with me like on a green screen with stars behind me or whatever and singing a funny song. And people relate to that. They want to see that. They love it. And they also go, oh, that's different to what I normally see from a brand. Brands don't normally do that. And so I think there's a point of difference there as well. But yeah, I think it's just for me, it's just finding what I'm passionate about, leaning into that. Obviously always having like your pillars of what the brand stands for and making sure everything funnels into those pillars. But yeah, I think I've got awesome bosses that just kind of like believe in me and say, yeah, go for it. So it helps. But yeah, I think really just like being authentically you it sounds super cliche, but it's kind of, I think that's what makes people really relate to something. So
Yeah, totally. I love that you said that, because I think that's actually it's two-faced. It's like what makes you the creative, authentically you, in a way that you're just going to be so psyched up to create something, and what makes you is often relatable in person to other people. So like try and make that come out in the content. That's what you're saying. But also like what makes the brand them.
Yep.
and like how do you stay on brand? And
Yep.
one of the things that I think is so imperative about Zorali's growth, from my perspective, I do a lot of brand strategy stuff outside of
Mm.
Creative Rise. That's kind of my thing outside of this.
Yep.
And one of the things that I think is so important when I look at Zorali is you guys are oh so clear on your tone, who you guys are, what you stand for. The
Mm.
narrative behind your brand is very clear. And so it comes out in the content a lot. And I think you guys have been able to create a beautiful community because of that. So
Mm.
here's my next question. How do you think creatives can learn that when looking at a brand? Because a lot of creatives go, hey, I want to go work for X brand. And
Mm.
they'll pitch the X brand. Hey, my name's Joey. I think I'm good at what I do. We should
Mm.
work together, which is a horrible pitch. We've all done it. You've probably done it. I've sent
Mm.
hundreds of those back in the day.
Yeah.
And part of the struggle of being a creative trying to work with a new brand is we have to try and convince them that we understand their company culture, we understand their brand culture, their brand tones, and that they should
Mm.
trust us with not only an idea, but potentially even some budget to
Mm.
go and fly the flag, wear their brand, and actually create some type of content. So, as a creative, what advice do you have on how us creatives can actually get better at understanding a company's story, understanding a company's culture and brand, and how do we bring that out in the
Mm.
content? Because you're telling me, and I agree with you, that that is the stuff that often converts really well, is the
Mm.
relatable and really real to a company's brand, purpose, culture, identity. How do we
Mm.
identify that in a client, a potential client, and then how do we bring that out in content?
Mm. That's a really, really good question. I've never really thought about it with any other brands apart from Zorali because I've never
Yeah, or
worked.
just give me the Zorali example. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's taken a while for me to like, I guess, be infused with the brand identity and like what the brand's
Mm.
all about. Like I've obviously known from conception and I know Elise and Ken personally. I also grew up with Elise. Her mum pushed me onto my first wave when I was like 8 years
No
old.
way.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um, so it helps to be mates with them. But I think for people who, yeah, are trying to just like figure out a company and how they should pitch to them, um, gee, I think if you align with them, if you really like their company and you align with their culture, figuring out like what it is about their culture that you align with, and like kind of the values behind that. And I think maybe, yeah, maybe just like really making those values kind of like the hero in your your pitches. Or yeah, I actually have no idea, bro. Like I'll just kind
No,
of
that's good.
yeah.
No, that's good though. Because what you're saying is you're like, you actually have to soak that up. And what
Yeah.
I hear you saying is if you pitch a brand and the brand hasn't looked at you and then go, oh, Jordy gets it, like he soaked it
Mm.
up. If they can't probably say that, why would they ever trust you with product, budget, or an opportunity, right?
Mm.
So when I hear what you're saying and I pair that with what I've seen you create for Zorali, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes total sense, right? Like why
Mm.
would I can think about myself if I owned Zorali and somebody
Mm.
pitched me and was like, hey, you should let me do a shoot for you. And I clicked through their socials or I clicked through their work and I was like, I
Yeah.
don't think this person gets us at all. Like, why would I trust them
Yeah.
with budget, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. That's at least what I hear you saying.
Yeah. For sure. I think it's just hard because like I don't really have an example in my life that I can relate to this because I've just been mates with Cam and Elise and
Yeah.
like yeah, but looking back at my like freelance work and how I've been able to like tell someone's story, because like that's what I'm really passionate about, is telling people's story, right?
Yep.
It's not necessarily like selling their product. Hopefully it does sell their product, but I want to get like, I'll sit down with them as long as it takes to like get why it is, like what actually makes that person tick. What is it
Mm.
about what they do that makes them get up in the morning? And then I'll
Yeah.
try and pinpoint exactly what that is. And then I want to be able to like make sure that I'm conveying that message to the audience in
Yeah.
a clear, concise, but like moving way. I want them to
Mm.
feel something. And so whether it's like I've done some stuff for this guy called Phil Clayton, who's a swim coach, and he wanted to kind of get his swimming coach website up and running and get more clients and stuff like that. And so all we did, he's so passionate about the ocean. All I did was make him a 1.5 minute video of him just talking about his love for the ocean, and the way that he expresses that is so passionate and so enthusiastic that like watching it, you just like, I need to go swimming. Like it's just, he's like, it's these also paired with these beautiful like visuals of him underwater and him like saying like, sometimes I just wish I was a fish. I love the ocean so much. I wish I could just stay under there. Like, and I think it's those types of things that like, I really think connect with people, because it's deeper than just the surface level. It's like, it's it's kind of like what makes a person and like the emotional side of things. So like, and with every creative endeavor that I do, I think that's why I do it, really to connect with people. And
you're looking for that in people.
100%. And so like,
and so you look for that in brands. That's what I hear you saying, is like, draw the line between, if that's what makes Phil tick, what makes Zorali tick, or what makes the North Face tick, or what makes that other local business that you're trying to pitch or work with tick. Like, really figure out that and sell that vision. And the products might just happen to be byproducts of that vision. But if people can buy into that, they're probably going to buy into the products. And that is so good, bro. I love that. I love that. I think if every creative listening, if you guys could all adopt that and really ask yourself that question, I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's good.
And I think Zorali do a really good job as well of like creating community around that, like bringing people together for meetups and community hikes and cleanups and like tree planting days. And I think it also demonstrates like we're not just about selling product. Like we want to help the environment together with people and keep community connection. So they
really
they
trying to
do.
push that vision.
I
love that. Okay, well, speaking of Zorali one more time, share as much of this as you want, because it might be trade secrets, but share as much of this as you want. What is the Zorali content strategy, and how can us creatives desiring to work with brands learn about like what exactly is a brand, let's say on like a 30-day calendar or 7-day calendar? Like, what are you guys aiming to create? What do you guys need to create? How many pieces are going out? Like, what can we learn from you, who's actually the one producing a lot of the stuff? And I'm sure you're also dealing with a lot of the other people that also, maybe get subcontracted to create some work for you guys. What is Zorali's content strategy? What's like the go-to best content strategy for a brand in 2024? And what can we learn from that so that we can sell ourselves to brands to be able to work with them?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Huge question.
I wish I had an answer of like our 30-day plans. We probably should do that, but we don't. We pivot week by week, to be honest.
Okay, cool.
I come in on a
Which
Monday
is probably
morning.
intentional.
It's actually kind of good, because things change so quickly that we need to. We do it like every week. We come in and we do a review of what worked last week. The stuff that was crushing, the stuff that was kind of stagnant, the stuff that maybe we could adapt to start crushing. But basically, we have a look at products that are coming out. We have our best sellers. So we have our kind of 4 best sellers: our venture pants, our Escapade, our sandals, and I think merino. And so we always kind of try and make fresh ads for those. So say we make 2 new ads for each of those for the week, and we'll just like get those out. But that's only if we have time. And then if we've got new products coming in, then we make sure that we're up to date. We've got all the educational pieces that we want to do out. So we try and put things into pillars. So we've got educational, we've got nature, so inspirational kind of nature pieces. Humor is like, it's starting to become more of a pillar, and I want it to become more of a pillar. But it's kind of not quite a pillar yet. And then UGC, that kind of is similar to educational, but like we send out products for people to kind of do
Yep.
UGC content with, or we just make it ourselves. And then storytelling. So that's a lot of the kind of, I don't know, more cinematic, like emotional voiceover pieces that
Yeah.
kind of tell the story of the product, or even like cutting clips out of the documentaries that we've made or the short stories that we've been making. But yeah, basically every week we just kind of make up a plan and we try and execute it, and sometimes we do it and sometimes we don't, and
Yeah.
we just pivot where we can throughout the week. But yeah, it's not like this grand, like print-outable, like I can hand it to you and
Yeah.
you guys can copy it. Like it's very like, it's very
Run and gun.
adaptable. Run and gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I love that. And
Yep.
as much as it sounds like, oh, we should probably have a 30-day plan, I'm sure the like 7-day plan you guys create is actually incredibly important, because you're right, stuff does change so quickly. And just for clarification for everybody listening, when you say, oh, we pick some of those best products and we create like new ads, like when you say ads, you're specifically meaning for paid advertising, correct? And that is
Correct.
different than what goes out on organic socials, right?
Yes.
Quickly talk about that real quick. Like, what do you think the difference between paid media and organic media is? Because a lot of the creatives that we talk to, a lot of creatives don't even actually know that like those are two different types of content, and how should you create those differently. So talk to me about the difference between paid media for a brand and then organic content you put out as a brand.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so a lot of the paid media stuff is very educational. It's very a lot of the UGC stuff kind of crushes in that area. So we make things that like firstly show very clearly the product, how it's used, what it's best for, and kind of educate people on why it's awesome and why they should buy it. And that's what kind of we put most of the money into, is kind of the educational pieces. But then you don't want to just have an Instagram or Facebook feed or whatever of just educational stuff that's kind of, it's not very entertaining, right? You want the Instagram and the culture of someone's feed to be a bit more than just your kind of UGC stuff. So we make a lot of, that's where the kind of the humor stuff comes in. A lot of Instagram is very, people want to be entertained, right? And so, but yeah, I think a lot of our reels and stuff that we make is trying to like, I don't know, capture the humorous side of life, maybe the inspirational side of what we're trying to do, of get people out to nature. It's trying to really, just hone in on our message, which is get out there, get amongst it, enjoy the benefits that nature can bring. A lot of it, we try and make a balance of, because the tone of Zorali, we are kind of fun, quirky, humorous, but we're also like quite deep. And so like making sure the balance of like the deep and meaningful, like mental health kind of stuff is in amongst the humorous stuff. So making sure that, that's all balanced out, as well as like the aspirational kind of like pictures of people with a tent on a mountaintop. That I know Dagan is one of
Dagan's the man.
Dagan's the man. He takes the best shots, bro. That's the guy. If you
I
want a
love
tent shot
that.
on a
Shout
mountain,
out to Dagan.
shout
For everybody
out to
listening,
Dagan.
Dagan was, I think Dagan was around round 11 mastermind grad. I think he was round 11. Anyways, he's the
a
man.
legend.
He crushes it. Well, dude, that's awesome. I hear you saying like you always try and create a really balanced place for speaking organically for people to land. If someone's going to see you through a paid UGC ad or something, you really want to make sure when they see your brand, they're getting kind of to taste all of those things in the first maybe 9 or 12 tiles on a feed, right? Like the emotional, deep storytelling why behind the brand, but also like the humorous side, the company culture side, some product stuff mixed in there. That's amazing. Dude, this has been great. I've really enjoyed this conversation. This is awesome. Last question, very open-ended, but like, do you have any last thing that you would encourage creatives trying to work with brands with?
Mm,
Anything that, as somebody who's really on the inside, we creatives that are trying to pitch brands, work with more brands should know?
mm. Man, I've been thinking about this a little bit lately, just with like some of the stuff that I've been doing for Black Friday and the humorous reels and the funny kind of singing and dancing clips that I've been doing. And I'm just like, man, honestly, I reckon if you find your niche thing, the thing that makes you you, your authentic self, and you just like you go ham on that and just like make things not for the sake of like selling, not for the sake of anything, but it's just like because you love it, and just put it out, put it out, put it out, put it out. Honestly, I reckon brands will look at your page and go, "We want him," rather than
Mm,
rather than like the classic like I'm just gonna pitch to a million different people and hope one lands. Like
yeah.
I don't know, make yourself like make yourself your own little brand, and then like people will like want you. Do you know what I mean? So
Uh-huh.
it's like
Yeah,
it's
totally.
creating like such a unique way of doing your thing that you want to do, and then making it, yeah, just like the people like really want you to work for their company. I think
Mm,
it's easy said and hard to actually do, but
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's what brands are looking for, right? They're looking for the
Yep.
people that stand out. And you've just got to find, yeah, you've just got to find that the way of doing that for you. And
Mm,
yeah, not everyone's going to be singing and dancing and making silly
yeah, yeah,
videos,
yeah.
but like, what is it that you can bring to the table that brand's going to be like, oh, that's going to add a lot of value to us.
Yeah. Dude,
Mm,
that's such a good answer. And the reason why that's such a good answer is because that is probably the most repeatable pattern I've seen in 5 years of
mm,
running Creative Rise, over a decade of running my own business, but
mm,
specifically for the 5 years of getting to work with hundreds of creatives a year, is the people that have a outlying factor about them or about their brand, like,
mm,
oh, Dagan, he's the dude who's always hanging off a rock wall, or
mm,
oh, or sleeping, or like, like kind of like dirt bagging it around Oz or wherever he is. Oh,
mm.
this is my friend Colin Yen, another mastermind grad. This dude does backcountry cooking. It's like his whole feed is just like unbelievable backcountry cooks. He
Mm.
makes you just want to like go hike with him and enjoy an
Sick.
incredible meal, and I could just keep going on and on and on of these people that have these like specific outlier effects about them.
Mm.
I think what it does, my take on what you're saying is, it makes you look like you've got internal clarity about who you are. And a
Mm.
founder goes, I know who we are. Why don't we work with somebody else who's also clear on who they are? And
Yeah,
together we can create some really good clarity for who this project can be, or that what this project can become. I don't think any
totally.
founder ever looks at a creative who looks confused or doesn't really understand like their style or like their
Right.
kind of angle on it and goes,
Yeah.
we should work with that guy.
Yeah.
We all want to work with people that have their angle figured out. So dude,
Yep.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that, man. That's such a good answer to wrap up the show. Dude, thank you.
Dude,
This has been
thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. I
This has
appreciate it.
been so fun, man. This has been awesome. So I really appreciate everything you dropped, and wow, maybe we'll have you back on the pod in like another year or two and catch
Yeah,
some more updates on what's going on with like content strategy and everything that's going on. So thank you, dude. I appreciate that.
absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
All right, what a cool episode that was with Jordy. That was so cool to listen into what he's thinking. Like the opportunity to get to speak to anybody who works in a brand, the founders, head of content, head of marketing, about what is currently working right now going into 2025 is a huge opportunity. So I'm super stoked that we got to have this conversation. And I really hope you, as well as me, really learned a few things from there. There was a lot of things that I heard Jordy say where I'm like, man, that was so, so good. I'm internalizing that. I'm taking that. That's going to go into my own business so that I can really start having those conversations with the brands. And I hope you learned a lot about how you can do the same from this episode. So, guys, if you're new here, one of our favorite resources here at Creative Rise, completely free. Our gift to you is the Creative Rise pricing calculator. If you've not gone and grabbed that yet, well, we just had a long conversation about working with brands. And one of the most difficult things about working with a brand is actually pricing the work you do for a brand. So thousands of you guys have already gone and gotten the Creative Rise pricing calculator, made yourself a free account, and use that thing weekly and monthly all the time. So if you have not yet, go to the links in the description, go to Creative Rise pricing calculator, go make yourself an account and use that thing as much as you want. Our gift to you. I hope you really, really enjoy it. And I hope it saves you a ton of time. I got an email, sorry, not an email. I got a message this week from somebody. Shout out to David. He said to me, he's like, dude, this pricing calculator just saved me so much time. And he was talking about the project had priced him out. And he's like, wow, I actually didn't know I could charge that much for a project that was only 4 hours. It was actually, the pricing calculator spit him out a number, it's like 3.5 grand or something based on some of the things that he'd inputted into the calculator. So it's really, really helpful. It can help you get really specific on what you are trying to do in terms of pricing stuff out. So if you're not using it, you should be. If you're in the wedding space, there's also a wedding pricing calculator built into it. There's a brand side and there's a wedding pricing calculator built into the same calculator, 2 different functions. So go on and check that out, guys. But hope you guys are having a great week. Thanks for being here, and we will catch you guys next week for episode 210. Crazy episode 210 is coming up. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week.